Hey everyone, Daniel here, and welcome back to another video. Here today, I want to sit down and summarize exactly what the CEO of Voyager Digital, Steve Ehrlich, said yesterday in an interview, and I'm going to tell you guys in advance, there is a lot of interesting stuff to unpackage here about funded account growth, about the new partnership deal that they announced yesterday, lending, the future of Voyager, etc. And if you enjoy these Voyager videos, feel free to hit that like button and share it with a fellow Voyager investor. Let's get into it. He started off by talking about the original goal of Voyager, what originally set them apart and continues to set them apart from their competitors. The offering of versatility when it comes to cryptocurrencies is one of their main goals, allowing customers to buy more than just Bitcoin and Ethereum, but actually over 50 different coins and tokens. That is one of the things that differentiates them. Obviously, you have that interest aspect baked into it as well, but offering customers over 50 tokens is something that differentiates them. You have a company like Coinbase worth $80 billion at this moment in time. They don't offer Dogecoin, one of the most popular cryptocurrencies at this moment in time, and you have a company like Voyager, which does. So offering that versatility and continuing to offer customers the choice to invest in not just the big dogs, the Bitcoins, the Ethereums, the XRPs, but those smaller tokens, the altcoins, the over 50 tokens that are offered on the platform. Next, this is one of the most interesting things he talked about here, guys. And he was talking about the VGX token and the benefits that come with it, why they do it. And he was talking about the growth of the Voyager platform. And he tried to kind of tie that with the VGX token. But he said something very, very interesting that I think was very overlooked by a lot of individuals. What he said, essentially, is that in the month of April, we're about to see parallel growth from what we saw in March, if not even stronger growth when it comes to new funded accounts. This is absolutely huge, guys. And I'm going to dive a little bit deeper in here by showing you guys kind of a bit of a chart here, looking at exactly what the data was for December, January, February, March, and then now what we know here for April. Now, avoid, or you don't need to look at anything that isn't green in this chart here. Let's look at what we saw in March. In March, we saw new funded account growth of 95,000 new funded accounts to a total of 270,000 new funded accounts. What he essentially said is that when it comes to new funded accounts, and I'm assuming this is pretty parallel with new verified users, he said that we're going to see at least the same growth that we saw in March, if not even more. So when we think about it, we're about to see at least 95,000 new funded accounts come onto the Voyager platform throughout the month of April, if not more, giving us a total of at least 365,000 total funded accounts. And now we can take this one step further, guys. Obviously, this is assuming that we're going to grow parallel from April to March. Let's assume something even more interesting. Let's assume that we continue this parallel growth throughout the rest of the year. Obviously, I think Voyager is going to grow exponentially as they continue to grow and really expand throughout the cryptocurrency ecosystem. But let's assume that they grow parallel and that, now they have right around 300, let's assume 95,000, new funded accounts for the next 8 months, for the next, essentially the rest of the year. That gives us right around 760,000 new funded accounts that will be added onto our total count by the end of the year. Obviously, now we're assuming potentially 365,000 total accounts at the end of April. So if we add that number here, we get a potential total funded account number for the Voyager platform of over 1.12 million funded accounts. And if we see this, guys, you're about to see assets under management, principal value traded, revenue explode. And when I'm talking about explode, I'm meaning revenue going into the hundreds of millions of dollars, assets under management going over $10 billion, trades per day increasing exponentially. If the growth that we saw in the month of March is able to be repeated throughout April and then continue to repeat throughout the rest of the year, we are about to see something phenomenal with the Voyager platform. And that's obviously not even assuming potential exponential growth, which I think is very, very likely. Obviously, right now, we are having some issues with deposits, with withdrawals, with the wait list. The wait list is one of the things that's preventing them from climbing the ranks on the app stores. People have to wait to essentially get onto the Voyager platform. But this new system upgrade that they announced back in early January is said to be complete in the middle of May, potentially late May. Once that happens, the waitlist should be gone, and Voyager can start to handle over 10,000 active users on the platform, or not 10,000, 10 million active users on the Voyager platform at a single time. And once that happens, there won't be a need for a waitlist. And once they continue to expand their essentially their customer service team, as they have been doing over the past couple of months, these withdrawal delays, these deposit delays will shrink alongside that, and that is very good for growth when it comes to the Voyager platform going forwards. And that's one of the very exciting things that I see coming to Voyager over the next couple of months. Now, he talked about competitive landscape, and this is something very important here to talk about. Obviously, we have companies like Coinbase, which just went public, eToro, which just went public through a SPAC merger, Kraken, another cryptocurrency exchange, planning to go public within the next potential few months here. These are all cryptocurrency brokerages, right? And he was asked about the competitive landscape, and do these companies pose a threat? Maybe not just these cryptocurrency exchanges, but what about regular banks? And he essentially brought back the example of E-Trade. Obviously, Steve Ehrlich was a big, essentially, part of E-Trade and the foundation of E-Trade back when it was starting in the early 1990s. And when he said E-Trade, he saw the exact same thing happen. And what he sees with Voyager is that they are already so far ahead from a lot of these companies and institutions that it would be very difficult for a lot of these potential banks or a lot of these other smaller cryptocurrency exchanges to catch up to where Voyager is at this moment in time. And the lack of regulatory clarity prevents a lot of the larger financial institutions from getting into this space. Obviously, one of the big risks for a lot of individuals is potential banks getting into cryptocurrency trading. And at that point, why do we need these individual cryptocurrency brokerages? We wouldn't. But obviously, with the lack of regulation clarity, they can't, or it's very hard for them to set up a crypto aspect of their business. And that's one of the things allowing Voyager to expand so rapidly in the coming months and build that massive user base. So when the time comes that banks, that the big guys can start to implement cryptocurrency or an aspect of cryptocurrency into their already existing business, Voyager will already have established a massive name for itself, which will prevent a lot of that risk and will make it one of the top dogs when it comes to the cryptocurrency brokerage space. When we talk about the next thing here, the future, right? And this is the near future, guys. Right now, Voyager has over 50 tokens on the platform. That is a very impressive number. And when we're talking about the future, we're expecting over 20 new tokens coming within the next few months. And this is very interesting. They're continuing to expand the ability of customers to, not just buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, but other altcoins. And as they continue to expand into the token space, more people will get onto the Voyager platform as that market continues to expand. We obviously have the debit card coming as well. And one thing I want to touch on with the debit card, which is pretty interesting, is the fact that, when you have a normal debit card at a normal financial institution, you generally don't tend to earn an interest rate. And if you do, it's a very minute interest rate. With Voyager, imagine this. You have a debit card linked to your Voyager account. The money sitting for that debit card is sitting in USDC. So while that money that, you're ready to spend with that debit card sits in an account, it's earning 8 to 9% yearly interest on an annualized basis. And at that point, it's so much better. It's a no-brainer almost to have your money in a Voyager account earning interest that you can obviously spend at a moment's notice rather than having that sit at a normal financial institution. So when we look at Voyager, I think they can very well disrupt the banking sector with the potential of these interest rates implementations to both their debit card and their credit card. Next, I want to talk about the uplisting here. Obviously, this is one of the more bullish catalysts that we're talking about potentially happening in the back half of this year, next year. Currently, in the Canadian Securities Exchange, that is where the stock is listed in Canada. They are planning to uplist to the Toronto Stock Exchange, so that is the main stock exchange in Canada. I think currently they're like the third largest company on the Canadian Securities Exchange, so they're working to get on the TSX, and that should happen within the next few months here. When we're talking about a NASDAQ uplisting, they're currently working with auditors to get that done. And Steve Ehrlich said late this year, early next year is when they really plan on getting that uplisting up to the NASDAQ. And once that happens, that will open up a large, essentially buying power, potential buying power, and money inflows essentially that will come into Voyager stock. Next year, I want to talk about lending. And this is a very big thing. Obviously, this is one of the core differentiators of the Voyager platform. The fact that you can hold Bitcoin, Ethereum, many other altcoins, and earn very high yearly interest rates. Now, originally, Voyager lent money. That's how they created this interest rate. They lent the Bitcoin, the Ethereums, out to larger financial institutions in need of liquidity, and those financial institutions paid Voyager a yearly interest rate, which Voyager passed down to the consumer. What's happening now is Voyager just announced a partnership with Blockdaemon. And now this is very interesting, guys. It's essentially starting a new aspect of this interest rate program at Voyager that's allowing them to get into the staking business. Not just lending, but staking. And I'm going to explain what this is. When we talk about Bitcoin as of right now, I think most people at this point understand that Bitcoin is mined. That's how someone can mine a Bitcoin. They essentially verify a transaction through that mining process, and they get a little bit of Bitcoin for doing that. When we talk about the future, something like an Ethereum is planning on transitioning into not a proof of work system, but a staking system, where instead of essentially mining Bitcoin or mining Ethereum and doing that through computing power, they're going to do it through essentially staking. So what is that? Essentially, I have an Ethereum and I lock it up in my account. I can't really move that, and Ethereum uses, instead of the processing power, they use that locked up cryptocurrency as essentially a verification and a way to participate in the operation of blockchain, and obviously they give a certain percentage, a yearly percentage, for doing that. Now, I am not an expert in this, the staking business of cryptocurrencies, but it is essentially an alternative to Bitcoin and cryptocurrency mining. And you do that through holding your essentially your Ethereums, your cryptocurrencies, or things along those lines. So when we talk about this new partnership with Blockdaemon, it's really going to start to get implemented soon, with 4 more coins being available to stake within the coming weeks, and 30 new coins available to stake within the next month and a half to 2 months. And when we talk about, how does this benefit Voyager, there's 2 main reasons. One, it gives customers more opportunity to earn interest on their platform. And reason number 2, it allows Voyager to control its balance sheet more effectively by reducing lending activities and reducing counterparty risks. Obviously, when you lend out money, there is that risk that the company will go bankrupt. In the case of staking, that isn't a problem, as essentially you're using your Ethereum, your 30 plus different cryptocurrencies to take part in the blockchain and allow it to essentially do its thing. But instead of mining, you're staking. Now, again, I'm not the best person to really explain this, but it is a way for Ethereum, or not for Ethereum, but for Voyager to continue to earn interest without having to lend out money. And that reduces risk for both the company, the consumer, and makes the system much easier for Voyager as a whole. And I want to take you to this article here. This is obviously the announcement that they announced. I want to read this one paragraph. This one really resonated with me. The partnership with Blockdaemon is expected to allow Voyager to maintain full custody of staked assets and protect their relevant private keys while potentially earning returns which can exceed those of lending interest rates. The partnership enables Voyager to continue to pay industry-leading returns to its value customers, generated from reliable institutional-grade infrastructure with support from Blockdaemon's secure infrastructure and protocol-specific automated and manual failover strategies. Voyager expects to eliminate the risk of double signing and slashing to protect customers' assets. Tokens will be safely stored in Voyager's insured custody management solution and with its qualified custodian, preventing leakage of any critical information. The partnership will also enable Voyager to add support for more assets supported by Blockdaemon in the future. So when we talk about this whole partnership, the main thing we got to understand, guys, it reduces risk, it allows you to continue earning interest rate, and it's just another way for Voyager to obtain that interest, not through lending, but through the actual support of the blockchain. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here, and see you guys next time.